stages, and it looks like on our ends we aren't actually off.
Oh, that was quick. They just kind of unleashed the floodgates, and here we go. Charlieboy starting in Airman, RenHero, I believe Quickman. So we'll see if Charlieboy ends up struggling a bit with this Airman stage compared to RenHero having one of the more user-friendly stages to start with.
Well, we can see on Charlieboy's end, in spite of having our dollar store Metroids, they're actually one shot. And Airman, at least for the first half, seems to be pretty friendly in the early stages of this race. Anyway, for those that aren't familiar with the current standings with the Randomizer tournament, we have changed a little bit of a few things. Frico, would you like to go over those small little changes?
No, now you're putting me on the spot here. I'm just here to speak the word thing. Changes.
Pretty sure the stuff that we talk about in the tournament are part of the word things that we're apparently contracted to discuss.
Wait, what? You gotta send me a new contract then. That's not part of my terms and conditions here. But, all that aside, the jokes aside, we see the randomized sprites. Charlieboy using Proto Man, RenHero going with the regular Mega Man sprite, and with Charlieboy making it to the boss store, we see Metal Man at the end of the Airman stage. So the bosses and their behaviors are one of the many things that are changed. Another thing we'll see is a random weapon being allocated to the runners. They will not get the Metal Blade by defeating Metal Man. They could get the Time Stopper, could get Leaf Shield. Most of the stages are not random, as well as the movement of Mega Man, or in this case Proto Man for Charlieboy. I know there's a couple things that I'm not remembering, and hopefully you could help me out here, Creed.
Well, first and foremost, we saw that RenHero fought Airman in Quickman's room, and for his trouble, he actually gets item 2. One of the things that is randomized is the item placement when you defeat a Robot Master, so having item 2 very early is a pretty big benefit to RenHero. As for how the Randomizer tournament is set up as far as the rule set, one of the things that's going to be more important is the fact that this is actually a zipless tournament. So as you see RenHero going through Bubble Man, which is one of those stages that you would see do zips, at least using a pause buffer for one of the basic setups, you can see that RenHero is not using it and using item 2 to quite a bit of interesting benefit, using it underwater. Pretty clever on his end. Also, we are hiding stage names, so we have no idea what stages our runners are going to be going into. So, for all we know, we can have Heatman just all of a sudden going first. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit interesting compared to our previous years, as Charlieboy goes into our Quickman room and he's going to fight Airman himself.
Now, to expand on the zips, it is possible to accidentally zip, which, given the rule set, there will be a time penalty assessed to the runner if an accidental zip occurs. So, just to expand on that a little bit, Charlieboy should be finding his item 2 here, and there it is. RenHero making it to the end of the Bubble Man stage, so we'll see what's hiding behind door number 2 for RenHero, and it looks to be Woodman.
We're going to see what kind of aspects Woodman, because Woodman could be one of the more dangerous fights, but as you can see, one, he's pretty much susceptible to everyone's susceptible to the Buster, but he's Buster soft weak. There are 4 Robot Masters that have extra susceptibility to the Buster, as RenHero finds Heatman a little early, but luckily item 2 to compensate for later on. But yes, for the Robot Masters, they're going to deal a little bit of extra damage to the Buster. So as you can see, for Woodman, you saw there was a bit about 4 units of damage as compared to the 2. Of course, we are playing this game on quote-unquote easy mode for accessibility for all our players. So right now, we got ourselves a pretty much interesting setup for the time being.
Well, to expand on RenHero being in Heatman stage, you definitely want to have item 2 heading into the stage for the Yoku block section. Which gives me, chills thinking of the match where item 2 was gated behind Heatman stage in every single game of the match, it felt like. Or no, it was behind Crashman in the last game.
Yeah, that previous game was one of those sections where you definitely would like to have heat into, but like I said, it's the randomizer. Item 2 can literally be anywhere. It's just fortunate that it was so early on. RenHero getting a little bit tripped up with some of the Yoku blocks. Hopefully he won't be able to get caught in one of those accidental zipping positions. Heatman is one of those stages where you're definitely prone to some accidental zip occurrences. But he goes through his section fine, probably going to use item 2 for the Yoku blocks, and Charlieboy should have a relatively easy fight with Woodman.
So long as he doesn't get bodied, he should be fine with Woodman. His life is a little low, but there we go. Woodman's out of there. So RenHero sailing across the lava ocean and the great abyss beyond. Charlieboy chasing RenHero stage to stage, it feels like. As Charlieboy now entering into Heatman stage as RenHero going to find the boss at the end of Heatman stage.
Which we got ourselves a Flashman sighting. Doesn't seem to be particularly Buster soft weak, so it's going to be digging for weaknesses. Of course, weaknesses are randomized, so you can take your chance in finding the weakness, but it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. You can definitely get the information, but you can definitely waste time if the weakness is not there. But RenHero was able to beat Flashman quick enough, and we're going to be moving on with a vanilla item 1 find in Heatman stage. So, for the most part, we are... Well, speaking of that, I was just about to talk about the guy.
Yeah, we're seeing the two generally problematic stages showing up a little early here. Charlieboy and RenHero both adapting a very similar strategy to how they're approaching the selection stage. So I would think Charlieboy is going to find his way into this stage after Heatman being completed. So we'll see if RenHero has much of a problem. But with item 1 and item 2 in hand, this particular section that RenHero is in goes significantly faster than what we saw a couple days ago. And Charlieboy actually opting out of using item 2 here, jumping through the Yoku blocks.
Deciding to take things a little bit safe, probably because he used item 2 a little bit earlier to try to ignore the first screen of Yoku blocks and just want to make sure he has just enough distance and enough time to make that item 2 fly safely. In the meanwhile, we see RenHero utilizing item 1 to full effect. One of the things that is randomized amongst the items is item 1. Item 1 is the only item that has a randomized attribute. Its duration time, its height, its speed, all of it's randomized, while items 2 and 3, they are not random for the sake of game completion, because of course, with stages like the Wily stages, obviously, you might not be able to beat those stages if items 2 or 3 are randomized to an extent where you can't really continue those stages.
Yeah, it would be difficult to get past the spikes in Wily 2 if you don't have a item 2 that lasts long enough to make it across that gap. Item 3 is that climb in, I want to say, is it Wily 3 or Wily 4? I'm going blank here. I'm being an old man, unfortunately.
Well, Wily 2 is definitely the stage where items 2 and 3 can be a little bit of a problematic issue if those are randomized. Of course, you can have item 1 being maybe good enough to make that final climb before getting to the Pico units. The problem is with item 1 being randomized and being capable of being stationary, as RenHero decimates a vanilla finding Crashman, crashing Crash. But yeah, item 1 potentially being stationary could just lead to some soft locking potential if item 3 winds up being completely wonky. So gotta keep those things in mind when figuring out randomized settings.
Yeah, we see Charlieboy here, getting knocked off by a fat fan on the bottom part of the screen. But one of the things you can see with the birds that have the eggs, if you are facing left, then those birds will spawn from the left side. If you're looking to the right, they'll spawn from the right. So Charlie using his item 2 before the fan fiend shows up, hoping to sail across with the birds coming from the left, not able to knock him off.
Funny Heatman and Flash stage, H Bison going full rapid fire with high speed heat tackles, but he's very soft beat to the buster, so pretty much a simplistic and easy fight on his end, while RenHero gets a little bit sniped from above with the gear by just pretty much canceling his flight on the item 2, just knocking him right off.
A little unfortunate for RenHero there, but now we're going to see Charlieboy into the Crashman stage, so we'll see how well he's able to deal with this. I would figure, given what he's got to work with, this Crash stage should not be much of an issue, but you never know. It is the randomizer, and stuff goes wrong every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't want to make this stage a pretty much a snap. You saw how it was effective for RenHero. It should be equally as effective for Charlieboy. Speaking of RenHero finding Bubble Man a little bit of a health deficit, but while they use those E-tanks, is pretty much back into the fray fighting Bubble Man here.
Oh, finding the Metal Blade, so Bubble Man just jumping up and down into a constant barrage of Metal Blades. So RenHero able to make it through the stage, equaling things up for the most part, now into the Airman stage Charlieboy started with.
Metal Blade not being a specific weakness for Bubble, but the fact that it goes in multiple directions and, actually hits him, not a bad find. Could make the things a little easier, but RenHero having item 2 for Airman stage, it not decided to jump up and once again just getting sniped from above. Kind of a bit of unfortunate drop right there, Ren.
I think he went for a pause buffer, but the item 2 actually counterfeited him. It was still on the screen, so he could not access the pause menu.
Yeah, whenever anything is on screen, an extra sprite, mostly a weapon or item on the screen, you cannot pause. So pause buffering is pretty much null and void as long as something is on screen. Pretty much cost RenHero if that was indeed what he was going for. Meanwhile, Charlieboy is about to fight his vanilla Crash sighting, and I remember him being pretty much soft weak to the buster, so yep, this is going to be a pretty easy fight for Charlieboy. And I'll probably say thanks to that death from RenHero in air stage, Charlieboy should have a little bit of an advantage, but we still got quite a bit of randomizer to go.
I think it is safe to say that Charlieboy is ahead. RenHero still has... they have one stage in common, but I think it's going to take RenHero a little bit longer to finish the Flashman stage after this Airman stage compared to Charlieboy finishing off this Metal Man stage.
RenHero finding that the Buster is the Mega Buster is not doing that much damage, but he finds Charged Heat to do quite a bit of damage. So pretty much some more information for RenHero as far as weaknesses fine. But probably a little bit of a trivia note as far as weaknesses go. Atomic Fire is actually weak on 2 Robot Masters. However, one of them is a bit of a red herring weakness. Every Robot Master has a specific weakness, but the thing about Atomic Fire is you would like to find one weakness for Atomic Fire. because the thing about Atomic Fire is if you have two bosses that are weak to it, that's gonna cause a little bit of issue as far as ammo consumption. And for Wily stages, that can be really huge considering that you have no idea what the Wily boss weaknesses are. So that's probably one of the things you got to keep in mind when finding about weaknesses. As Charlieboy is making short work of Metal Man stage, it should make just as short work of Bubble Man.
Yeah, there we go. Charlieboy's getting him out of there. So with Woodman, the common stage between them, we're going to look at 1535 for Charlieboy to get into the Woodman stage. So we can compare that with when RenHero gets into the Woodman stage, which should be around 16 minutes. So let's say 30 seconds or so time advantage for Charlieboy at minimum. RenHero getting held up a little bit by the fan fiends. And it looks like, RenHero taking a shot at the crash wall while he had the opportunity. So removing one of the possibilities of what the crash walls could be vulnerable for.
So we got Charlieboy taking on our hard dog. Looked like he was sticking with Metal Blades to take them out as quickly as possible. RenHero taking another death to Heat Man. These deaths are starting to pile up and tack on time as Charlieboy is literally just breezing along this particular rando C, more than likely extending his lead as RenHero does find that the Buster is a good weakness for Heat Man. Just got to get those last couple of hits.
The positioning isn't the greatest for RenHero, but execution aside, he's through. And unfortunately, that gap is widened to a little over a minute and a half at this point for RenHero taking that death. So Charlieboy with a pretty significant advantage heading into the back end of the Woodman stage as RenHero's just beginning.
Charlieboy clearing out the Joe Treehouse fan club and gonna use the rest of his item to just pretty much, assume a bat doesn't plug him out of the sky. Okay, so he's pretty much safe along the rest of Woodman stage. About to find out our last robot master in said wood room. And we have ourselves our final robot master in Quickman. And gonna be searching for weaknesses. He's gonna stick with... Nope, he's gonna change weapons. I thought he was gonna stick... Well, he is gonna stick with Metal Blades.
Yeah, he wanted to go for the safety sludge. He was down to the point where one hit would have taken him out, and Charlieboy just going back to the Buster to finish him off. So that's 8 Robot Masters down for Charlieboy. RenHero on his way.
Alright, so that lovable siren that we're hitting shows us one of the, if not the best eyebrows in video gaming. It's time for the Wily stages, so of course that means we get to play our favoriteest game in the whole wide world. So of course, the Mecha Dragon is one of the randomized things that is in the randomizer. He has a randomized color. He also has a randomized weakness. For you, Chad, the name of the game is, as always, guess the color of that Mecha Dragon, and as always, for extra credit, guess that weakness as well. And I think I'll start us off for this particular shindig. I've been seeing a good amount of grays as of recently. I'm going to stick with that as one of my usual go-tos. But as for the weakness, I'm going to see if we're going to have a crash bomb sighting for our Mecha Dragon this go-around. So, Frico, you're up.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with... Let's see, orange is one of the colors it could be, right? I'm going orange. And, well, I think it's public knowledge at this point that I favor the Bubble Lead as my preferred weakness for the dragon. So, orange, Bubble Lead, let's have it, game. Prove me right.
RenHero taking out Quickman. Looks like the leaf shield is a secondary weakness, so that's some potential information that he'll find for later in the refights. But RenHero is now finally on his way to Wally 1 himself, but Charlieboy, pretty much thanks to RenHero's miscues, already at the Mega Dragon, pretty much has himself a definite lead, and we're about to see how our lovely dragon is gonna be just a few seconds now.
Ooh, okay.
That is mostly a blue dragon. I won't take credit for that little gray belly though. I want most of the dragon being gray. But it's definitely not Crash Bomb, so I'm out of it.
Yeah, if you took credit for the gray, I'd be taking credit for those accents, and it looks like the air shooter just absolutely dumpstering the dragon.
So Charlieboy out of Wally 1, RenHero basically starting Wally 1. We're gonna see how Wally 2 acts for Charlieboy, as he's probably gonna take some of those weapon capsules so he can fill up those item 2, so he can make this fly that we were talking about earlier. Like we said, item 2 is not one of the things that are randomized. We actually would like to fly over these fights to complete the game after all.
Wait, that's actually a thing a runner wants to do? What
Apparently,
is that?
Apparently, rumor has it.
Well, Charlieboy's actually not picking up all of those small item energy pickups, saving a little bit of time hopping through there. Here we go. He's going to pick up the big one, though.
Yeah, not only that, he also decides to forego checking the walls in Wally 2, which is Charlieboy's usual stick. He usually likes to find weaknesses for the walls at the same time for fighting blue beams. But of course, that's gonna be a little bit risky. He's gonna be under fire while finding the wall weaknesses. But it does save a little bit of time, so you don't have to worry about digging for stuff while he could just move on to our Pico boss, our lovable toaster units. So we're gonna see if it's Buster. Nope, it's not Buster. He's gonna check air, be doing some weakness on it, and oh my goodness, my heart is swelling.
Alright, well, this is about as close to a coffee break as you're gonna get for Charlieboy. Just gonna hang out in his little spot there, let the leaf shield do most of the work. And RenHero, unfortunately, eliminating the bubble lead from possibility.
Charlieboy is in a bit of a health deficit, but he manages health long enough to just, let the toasters just plow straight into the leaf shield with complete reckless abandon. And Charlieboy heading out into Wally 3, RenHero also using air shooter, absolutely destroying the dragon as he begins Wally 2.
And so about a full stage advantage now for Charlieboy. So Wily 3 should go fairly quickly for Charlieboy. Ooh, that jump. Alright. So a little worried that jump might not have been long enough to make it to the next pillar.
That jump wasn't.
Yeah. For those that are not aware, spikes are bad.
Very bad, as we're so been told. But yeah, he definitely want to be a little careful in Wally 3. Wally 3, while it's one of the most straightforward, can be one of the most dangerous if the randomized enemy set could deal a little bit of a curveball, especially with enemies like the drills, moles, or the ever-present fat fiends, the fan fiends, and you pretty much have yourself a spike drop or a pitfall in the near future. But our enemies were actually a little more kinder than usual. Chanky Maker along the way, just slowing things down a bit, but overall, once again, a pretty straightforward Wally 3 as he approaches the Gust Tank. RenHero not too far from the Pico Pico units himself. So let's see how our Gust Tank is going to be faring. Pretty much repping a little bit of a Joker set, and it's Buster Week.
Ay. That was a pretty free fight there. RenHero finding the leaf shield straight away. So RenHero going to make up a little bit of time here just by the unforced error made by Charlieboy in Wily 3. So we might see about a minute deficit coming out of Wily 3 and into Wily 4 for the runners. Maybe a little bit more. RenHero, the eye test, he's behind. He's got to do something to speed things up a little bit. Charlieboy would have to make a mistake at this point to really have RenHero back into the race.
Well, Wally 4 is definitely a stage that can definitely swing the tides back in RenHero's favor if the anxiety runes are beneficial. Right now, once again, it's looking like a rush home. Only just a hermit crowd in the first room, but we're going to see how the room after this particular one for Charlieboy is, if it's going to be a little more devious or not. Using the rest of his item 1 to make a little bit of a shortcut to ignore those moving platforms, and yeah, not much anxiety in these rooms. So Charlieboy should have pretty much free reign before he goes to his boobing fight.
Yeah, the great equalizer not really being much of an issue this time around. Ooh, Joe Armor's showing up in the last area. Oh, Charlie getting bailed out.
Yeah, pretty much showing up in their vanilla spots, no less. So Charlieboy just making his final headway towards the boobing cannons. Take note, he does not know the wall weakness, so he's going to need to take a little bit of time to see what the wall weaknesses are. But if the boobies is one of our god weaknesses, he might not need to destroy these walls, but he's taking his time to check on the walls. And
it doesn't look like Metal Blade nor the Leaf Shield. Quick Boomerang, Bubble, nope. Leaf Shield, that looks like everything at this point. Charlieboy trying to pause buffer his way through the shot. Ooh, charged heat for the walls.
It's sensible to charge heat. He kind of failed to utilize a particular strategy, as we find bubbles to be our Picotory weakness. If you come in with a charge heat and come into the door, the charge heat will automatically fire as you're entering the door, and if it one-shots, you can actually automatically rule that wall weakness, unless he happens to be a two-shotter. But that could have been information that could have saved Charlieboy a little bit of extra time. But regardless of the matter, the blue beans are out, and he's the first in our refights, where we're gonna have a little Sills airman ditty for our refights.
Alright, so here we go. Charlieboy into the refights. RenHero doesn't look like he's able to set up the item 2 to get across the top part. Gonna opt for item 1 instead, and bonking off the snail, so losing a little bit of time from an execution standpoint. RenHero is.
I don't think RenHero actually knows the setup. If he did, he probably would have done it immediately. So it's more probably of a comfort issue, as he's choosing not to do item 2 as opposed to do the item 1 strats in the final room of the second to last platforming room. Well, regardless, we have RenHero checking up on the weaknesses for the boobing turrets, as Charlieboy is still pretty much just taking out Robot Master after Robot Master on his 5th one. So right now, once again, it seems like Charlieboy is pretty much on the forefront and pretty much has a good headway, and probably has a very, very high probability of being our winner in this first of the best of 3.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. Charlieboy is going to have to pretty much, decide that, oh, well, I just need to go to the bathroom in the middle of this run. Or something like that. Charlieboy gonna resign himself to taking a death here, trading an extra life for an E-Tank, making sure he has it for the Wily machine, just in case. So, not a bad trade here for Charlieboy. I would have made that trade irrelevant of knowing where I am in the race. But you know what? At the end of the day, Charlieboy's on number 7, where RenHero, I believe, is on his first Robot Master.
Actually, the resigning of his fate is actually a little bit more important than we realize. Charlieboy is actually out of E-tanks. So this could actually mean quite a bit if we have a particular situation with the Wally machine, but you know how the randomizer is. The odds of that is we're kind of
the odds are not likely, especially with me doing commentary, but you know what? It could end up working against Charlieboy, and we will find out right now.
The thing about the Wally machine is, well...
Oh! Hello! Okay. Charlieboy found the first weakness straight away. It was not a Buster weak. So now Charlieboy's got to hunt for a weakness on the second half of the Wily machine. Oh, air shooter. Okay.
Oh, back to back air shooters. Air shooter had a potential to be locked out for the second phase, as sometimes the weakness from the first phase is not the weakness for the second phase. So Charlieboy got really lucky that the air shooter is susceptible for both phases, and it was a very solid air shooter as well. 3 tornadoes, all of them coming out pretty fast. Yeah, it was a really good weakness. So of course, not to steal your thunder, Frigo, but of course we got Charlieboy going to Victory Road here on our way to our alien in what should be a pretty easy win for Charlieboy, unless some natural disaster happens.
Well, Charlieboy did take out his insurance. One of the things that absolutely drives me crazy is a runner going to the left in Victory Road and taking the item energy for a random weapon. It's best to just go, okay, I go hunt for what item it is, and if I run out of energy, I'll take the L against the alien. But it looks like Charlieboy should be good here with the bubble lead.
A vanilla weakness for basically vanilla boss, and Charlieboy has finished first place in our best of 3 with official SRL time of 32 minutes and 23 seconds. GG's for Charlieboy. Good luck, RenHero, for finding our weaknesses, as he finds the unfortunate news that, yeah, this time we actually do have a Buster immune Wily machine.
Oh, this one's a rough one, that's for sure. And RenHero finding the crash bomb, it looks like, for phase 1.
And it's actually a pretty solid crash bomb as well. One of the randomized attributes of crash is the fact that it has a random explosion duration. And just like that, the crash bomb also being one of our weaknesses that carries over between phases. So we got some pretty good finds between air shooter and crash bombs for the Wily machine weakness.
Yeah, that's a good find, but unfortunately for RenHero, a little too late. I think he does have the bad news that he will be down a game going into game number 2, but you know what? At this point, finish it out. You know, finish strong. Try to get a little bit of positive momentum going for game number 2. So RenHero gonna finish things out. And to that, the winner of this match will be facing Kamasenin in their next round, where the loser, I believe, gets a date with the Daggett.
We got RenHero searching the weaknesses, finds Bubble. Gotta be careful, he's low on Bubble, but it seems like Bubble's doing quite a bit of damage, and there you go. RenHero finishing in second place, 34 minutes and 23 seconds, so literally 2 minutes apart from each other. But of course, that still doesn't take care of Charlieboy, as Charlieboy does win match 1 for our best of 3 matchup in our final round 1 in the bracket phases.
Yeah, alright, now let's, do a little autopsy on that game. If RenHero were clean, not taking a death in the Airman stage, I think he took one more death, somewhere along the way, in the middle of a stage. Does that put RenHero on a competitive pace with Charlieboy, or did Charlieboy just stay clean and still out-execute RenHero?
That's actually a good question, because the thing, RenHero took quite a number of unfortunate deaths. And while Charlieboy had made a few mistakes or two, Charlieboy's mistakes were relatively minor compared to RenHero's. So it was definitely a case of the cleaner player wins the race. So for RenHero to try to come back and try to even up this series, he's gonna need to play cleaner, and he's definitely capable of doing so. But of course, that still leaves the problem of Charlieboy need to be just as sloppy.
Very true. I guess where I'm trying to go is this kind of Charlieboy's race to win, or does RenHero have the tools in the kit, as it were, to put a compelling argument up and say, all right, no, I'm going to out-execute you in Game 2. Yeah, I made a couple mistakes in Game 1, but you know what? I'm just going to do better and flat out just win Game 2 because I'm just the better runner between the two.
Well, I will probably give Charlieboy the advantage in as far as execution, but RenHero is capable. He can definitely sneak in a victory or two if things fall in his favor. And of course, with the rule set being hidden robot master names, zipless, all it could take is just one unfortunate stage selection error or one unfortunate error in execution that could lead to a death, and RenHero could easily just win the day, and he could definitely do it in match 2. So we're gonna see what happens as RenHero and Charlieboy get set up for the next race. So it's gonna be interesting to see how these two fare after race 1 doing what race 1 did what it did.
Yeah, very true. It looks like both of the runners are just chomping at the bit, going, all right, I don't need any time. Let's get this going. Mr. Stone coming up with a rather creative summation of the game. Jalico presenting Mega Man A New Hope, as we did see the opening scroll for Star Wars, another one of the randomized elements.
Well, apparently it was the better of the trilogy. I heard the remaining trilogies weren't all that good.
Depends on point of view.
True.
Depends on what you look for in a movie. It not to derail things, but I would say the original trilogy, between movie 1 to movie 3, is definitely the most solid of the group. But here